Hill Arroyo, that's the official name for it. And it's too wide. I'll show you a graph of a cross section of this arroyo. What happened was they came in and redid a sewer line. I don't know if it was down here. It's on the other side of that road for sure. But there was people walking their dogs, but mostly right here. It was one guy in a motorcycle that was going nee, 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 every week, and nothing could freaking grow. And so there was no vegetation to increase near bank shear stress. And since the bed is, if you did a bulk sample of the bed, it's fine sand with a little bit of clay in it, and you can see there's some gravels, there's a few cobbles, but the disturbance of the motorcycle prevented vegetation from growing, and so the channel got very, very wide. It's wide, barren, hot, nothing's gonna grow. Every time it flows, this stuff moves too much, okay? So what we wanted to do was initiate a process of channel narrowing by growing native vegetation. And you can't grow native vegetation in the Chihuahuan desert. If we planted something, there's no way to water it, it was gonna die. So what we did was, we built this with about a, what, 14,000 pound excavator. What model was it, Mike?
It was
you
a
rented it.
304, it was an 8,000 pound excavator.
Okay, so I got on an 8,000 pound excavator and I dug a trench 4 feet deep that went from here to there. And these were 8 foot long cedar 4x4s. And we stuck them in the trench and we took a string and marked all these posts, you know, cut half of them off with a chainsaw, used the extra pieces for the other end, okay? And so this is called a post vane, V-A-N-E. This is a post vane. It is an upstream pointing barb. And the posts are on about 15-inch centers, something like that, okay? And they're designed to allow water to flow through. During a runoff event, say the water gets up this high, the water that's coming down here is ever so slightly slowed down. And so the larger particles tend to drop off. We have decreased shear stress below the threshold of entrainment of this size particles. This particle was put here during a runoff event. When was this built?
This was built
about a year ago.
1 year ago. Actually, it was built in October.
Okay. This is deposition caused by that. What that did is it trapped branches, rabbit turds, seeds, leaf litter, and gravel, and it's built a bank that's going to turn into a point bar. At this end, I think we didn't go any further because there's a buried infrastructure here. And what happened is a little bit was getting out at the end. Mike came back and did kind of a quick and dirty patch job to tie this vein into the bank. Look at what's happening. Native vegetation is growing in the deposition on this bank. It's going to further increase shear stress and further increase the size of particle that's going to get parked here.
Further decrease shear stress, right?
No, it's
No,
going to increase shear
I'm
stress.
excuse me, I'm
The
sorry.
vegetation is going to increase shear stress. Everybody knows that water goes down slope. If you are to master stormwater, you need to master shear stress and its effect on sediment transport. Okay? So this bank is building up. During a runoff event, water and sediment are coming on down. Some sediment's getting parked on this side. During the next storm, more will get parked here, and it's actually speeding up the water here because all the water needs to get past this thing, and that part's slowed down, this part's speeding up. What's going to happen in the next few years is it's going to shift the thalweg, or deep spot of the stream, away from this, and believe it or not, it's actually going to, and you can see it already happening, large particles here. Here's some large particles that are starting to get parked here. What's going to happen? That's, believe it or not, it's going to happen on this side, and in like 5 years, this thing is going to start to bury itself. When sediment is detained here, it's during a runoff event. So it's not just sand and gravel, but that sand and gravel is completely full of water. So water is soaking into this bank now when it wasn't so much before. And since it's relatively stable because all the little flows go over there, something is going to start to grow here. This is going to become vegetated with native plants, even if Mike doesn't plant anything, okay? This is now going to fix itself with the sediment and native plants in the seed bank. One day, this may be completely disappeared. It's my goal to leave no trace. Temporarily, you can see, oh, some guy stuck a row of 4x4s in the creek. What an idiot, okay? Keep coming back and watch what happens. We're gonna keep coming back after every big storm. Mike's gonna be monitoring this. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna manage this feature until we work ourselves out of a job. And yeah.
So Mike, what is your monitoring? When you say you're monitoring,
We're just doing photo monitoring
Okay.
and basically doing a qualitative assessment of it. I'm not taking measurements of how deep the sediment is. I can see. I'm standing 8 inches above the ground surface that existed when we installed it, so I can see that it's working. It's qualitatively, it's doing its job. When one of our monitoring events happened very shortly after this was built. We got a pretty large rainstorm earlier this spring, and we noticed the corner there where Van is standing was kind of blown out a little bit, and so we did a little bit of work to add that stuff in, and now I can see that that's working. It's still building up sediment, so we're not really doing any measurements per se. It's just a qualitative photo assessment, and we're documenting that in a report every quarter.
Everybody who goes to college gets run through this routine about measuring stuff, but in hydrology, although we understand the general theory, it's extremely difficult. Each thing is extremely difficult to measure, and there's all kinds of mathematical models for this and that, but they're highly dependent on the input variables. And so the likelihood of getting the right answer with any kind of mathematical model is nil. So it's about paying attention to what you can see is happening and reacting to that and learning from it. Maybe one day AI will figure it out and we'll all become obsolete. But right now, we have to do it by being here, watching, and not be subsumed by some model.
So those will stay, once they're covered up, those will stay. Those
Yeah.
are going to be removed.
They're gonna, if
They'll
it's
stay here.
cedar, it's gonna take a long time for it to rot.
Sure.
It's gonna get buried and or rot. And as you will see, because we have about, I don't know how many of these to look at, is that you're gonna find out, you know, what do you think is gonna happen? Let's look at a bunch of these. You tell me what you think is gonna happen.
What
Okay.
about the metal? Like I understand the cedar will rot. Or is the metal going to be left in?
I've seen modern T-posts that are more rotted than 115-year-old juniper fence posts. Yeah.
It's the Anthropocene. There's plastic bottles
Yeah.
and oil filters and dog poo and all this stuff in here. You know, we're stuck here in the Anthropocene. I'm not a fan of this. We don't normally do that. Okay, that was a quick fix.
Yeah, on the note of that, so part of the situation, I hate to go back and resort to the excuse of, well, we ran out of funding. But
Where's
it's
Connie?
true, time and funding are constraints that control the way projects are built. And in this particular case, we did spend the construction budget, and we used part of our monitoring budget to do a quick fix with tools that we actually had in the truck that day. And so rather than let it get worse, we had the ability to fix it at least temporarily right then and there. So we did, and that's what it is. I also think that this, you know, everything is a learning experience. Putting these kinds of structures in highly friable, erodible, silty sands, you know, creates a real challenge. And, you know, even there's really not much of a source of bigger rocks. We're actually kind of depending on, you know, debris, illegally dumped debris to help our projects function correctly, but it's working, you know.
And what this is going to do is it's going to narrow an overwide stream and put a little bit of wiggle back in it. And this has an effect upstream right now, which is this deposition is because the stream needs to get around that post. And so this desert willow is now in a depositional zone. This whole bank, both upstream and downstream from that, over time will build a bank and it'll become vegetated with native vegetation, which will further increase the effect we started. So we're not fighting nature, we're assisting Mother Nature in her career of self-healing because we understand the dynamics. This one has a larger blowout and it's escaping in the corner pocket, and we need to go back and fix it. The issue was there was utilities in this vicinity and we couldn't tie it into the bank as well as we would have liked to. So Mike knows what to do. If he comes back and drive any kind of posts in here, this will continue to function. And you can see from the flow tracks that now it's acting as a two-way flow splitter, and it's working to build an island here. It takes a long time to do restoration in a dry arroyo in the Chihuahuan Desert.
Did you guys all hear that?
It's a little low. Yeah. Caught about half of it.
Okay. So the first thing we noticed when we walked up to this one, apparently it's rained since our last monitoring event, and the last monitoring event, or the last rain, was probably quite substantial, because it appears that a few of our posts are gone or buried, or maybe, you know, they've moved, they've shifted in some way, and this is the 8th principle of rainwater harvesting: assess and adapt. And what I like to think of is, we've been seeing on the way up here, we've pointed out some failed concrete, or some failing or failures in progress associated with concrete infrastructure. There, green infrastructure sometimes fails. I don't necessarily consider this a failure more than I do a learning objective. And I will also point out that the price point of the repair for this is going to be way, way, way lower than the price point of a similar gray infrastructure repair.
Yeah, Hector is going to come out from High Desert Native Plants one day soon and fix this in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is part of our monitoring and maintenance built into the job, right, Connie?
Yep. Thumbs up.
2 thumbs way, way up.
And it cut around. This is a challenge because this concrete slopes down like this. And so this was the last post. We're gonna need to figure out how to tie this together. Maybe we should put some tap cons in this concrete. This just needs to hold for a season or two until the vegetation stabilizes it and it's good to go. This only needs to be here temporarily because it's ultimately the native vegetation that's going to put the wiggle back in the stream and narrow it. Let's try to find one that didn't mess up.
This is really cool though, because you could see, I mean, this was not installed with only 1 centimeter sticking up out of the ground. This was installed with 12 inches sticking up out of the ground. So we're standing on 12 more inches of sediment than what was here last year. That's 12 more inches of sediment that didn't get across Lavender. Yes? Yeah, they were all installed in the same week.
In like 3 days or something
Yeah.
like that. Okay, so check it out, humans. Here comes the stormwater off the neighborhood down one of those gray infrastructure features, and it used to come straight through here, dumping in to the low flow channel of the arroyo. So I blocked it off and made it come in here and built this separator bank. So during a local intense thunder shower, the stormwater from the subdivision gets trapped and this is where the motorcycle used to zoom. And so we put those posts laterally and stuck a bunch of branches in there. Nobody walks through there hardly anymore.
Mesquite, thorny branches.
And this is making a point bar that's irrigated. See the stormwater flow tracks? So the stormwater is growing native vegetation on the point bar, and we're keeping the motorcycles and the people and their dogs out of here. And now you're looking at a little glimpse of what we think a stable width for this channel is. It's between those shrubs. It doesn't need to be over wide. It can be narrow and relatively deep, and we're managing shear stress in the active channel, keeping shear stress high enough to transport the annual sediment fluxes. And the stuff that eddies out on the point bar is building banks that are going to become vegetated with native vegetation that will shade more of this hot, dry arroyo bottom. A lot of complex dynamics are happening right here. Questions, problems, statements? You got a joke?
No, I do not.
Oh.